Okay, everything looks good. We have margins, we have our boxes and our images, everything's blocked out. Now all we need to do is place our logo and all of the text. So the first thing I want to do is put that on a different layer. I think we only need these two layers, one for all the text and content and one for all these boxes. So if I need to, I can always lock those boxes if they're in the way. We put space around each of these boxes, but we also need space within them before we start placing all this text. So let me show you the best way to do that. I'm going to start with the cover. So I'm going to take this rectangle frame, which can be used to place images or a solid color like this, but all you have to do is place your type cursor there, and now it's a text box. And what's great about that is that we can set a margin within this text box now. So we're actually going to do it on object, which seems odd because it's a text box. You would go to maybe type, but no, because it's the container that we're working on. So text frame options is under object, and that's a really important thing to remember because text frame options has a lot of things that we'll be using. So for this particular case, we're going to use the inset spacing, and we're going to set it at 0.25. We're going to be consistent throughout this little brochure at 0.25. So then you see, once I click on this, I can see that perfect margin. Either I click on this box to see what the margins are, or what might be easier is just to drag guides. So you can see it just doesn't take any time at all now that I have those margins. So now I'm going to place the logo here. I'm going to make a box slightly bigger than these lines, place it. I'm going to go to object, and let's use that fitting again. Now this time, whenever you have a logo, you always want to fit content, because if you fill the frame, you're going to crop part of the logo off. And you can see it's left a little bit cut off here on the registration mark. So I'm just going to open up the container a little bit more, but I still want the word floor to go right on those lines. So I'm going to do a little sizing, and I'm going to get that word floor to sit right on there just like that. Perfect. Now I want to get a text box for this tagline under it. I'm just going to set that right on that margin too. Do you see how useful it is having a margin? Now before we go much further, let's lock this lower layer so we don't accidentally create in there, and make sure we're in the layout. Then what we're going to do is we're going to place our text just off the side. I'm going to drag it over here, and we'll feed from that. So the first line that I need is this inspired modular. And make sure you cut it when you take it out of that box so you don't lose track of what text you already have. And I'm just going to paste that into the text box. Then we'll style our first piece of copy. So this is all going to be set in Helvetica. And this particular piece for now is going to be 16 point, and maybe 15. Now if we want to get that extra little space right there, we could probably just put like 5 points of tracking. Oop, good guess. There we go. So we'll color that white, and we'll make that our first style sheet. And we're going to call that medium text because we'll have smaller text. And then we have another chunk of copy that goes over here at the bottom. So let's make that text box also, setting it right on your margins. And that is the Welcome to Modular Freedom. We're going to also make that Helvetica. We're going to go quite a bit bigger. So I'm going to use my Shift Command greater than to size this up till I get it to the ballpark. Probably like 30 point would do it. Now right now this is all one paragraph, and if I start putting returns in here, it'll break it up. So what I want to do is do Shift Return. That keeps it together as one paragraph. And then I'm going to make this white, and I want to bring it right down to that margin. And this is regular. I actually want to make this light and make the word welcome regular, just to kind of break it up. So let's go to the preview and see how we're looking. Everything looks good. I'm going to bump this tagline just a little bit down, the word floor. Perfect. All right, let's do the back. So this back panel, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put our cursor in there, and we're going to turn that into, we have to go to our layers and unlock it. And then we're going to put our cursor there and turn that into a text box. And let's grab everything that comes on here, which is everything from ordering floor is easy to floor.com. So we're going to grab that, set it in this box. You could set a text box on top of this green box. But what's great about this as it is that we can use the text margins to kind of keep our text in line. So again, we can go to text frame options, and remember our inset spacing was 0.25. So that already helps us out. Now we just have to style the text. So this is also Helvetica, but I want this all caps. So I'm going to click that in the character panel. I want it white, and I want this quite a bit larger. Let's try that, 25 point. And again, I'm going to handbrake that by hitting Shift Return so it stays as one paragraph. And we've got 26 point, go just a touch smaller. Let's not leave this automatic leading at 30. Let's tighten that up just a little bit. That looks good. And then let's define that. So let's make a new style sheet, and this one we're going to call large type. This is your body copy. So first we'll style this for body copy. So we're going to make this also Helvetica, and we're going to make it 11/16. And we also need to make it white. We need to make all this white. But this is a lot of copy all together. So we can break this up, and we do want to break this up as individual paragraphs because then we can control the spacing. So let's break it at use the floor calculator, return, use our design it yourself feature, and if you still need help. And I'm just going to put regular returns in there. And it's really important where you put a soft break and where you put a hard return. And here's how you can tell. You're going to go to show hidden characters. And do you see how this headline has a soft break? That's what that little corner is. And then there's the paragraph break. We don't really want to use paragraph breaks. Like here's one we could take out. We don't really want to use paragraph returns as spacing. So we don't want to put in an extra return when we need space because it only will give us the amount of space that that text is. So if that text has a 16 point leading, that space will be 16 point. Whereas in the paragraph panel, in this area here, we can control that a little better. So for example, we want space underneath. Ordering floor is easy. But if we do a return, it's going to be either that much space or that much or that much. And that's not really allowing for finessing. We just want a little bit of space after. So we're going to highlight any of that text. It doesn't matter because it's all one paragraph. Any of this text. And we're going to go down here and we're going to put space after. This is really important because you can style your text much better with all these little slight movements. So in this one, we're going to start off with 0.25 after. Now you'll notice when we go to our large type, it has a plus after it. That means that we've changed something. So we either need to ignore it or redefine it. I'm going to redefine the style. So then our text, this is our text, and we want to put space in between these paragraphs. Do you see how there's a paragraph at the end of that one, and that one? That means when we put space after, that's where it's going to go. So this is our text style sheet. So we're going to call this one text or body copy. And we're going to go down here. It's 11/16, which is great. We just want some space after it. So let's try 0.06, double that, and that looks good, 0.125. So now we'll go up here and we'll redefine that. You can hit on here, redefine text. So that is now what our text spacing is. And then this last 800 number, let's reuse our medium text for that one. And do you see how it's not quite sitting on the end? If we click on our text frame, you can see that it's not bottoming out where we want it to. So that means we can just go in and add some space. So this medium text, I can keep adding space above it until it comes down. And then I can just kind of finesse it. There we go. Sits right on there and lines up with the cover. Now let's look at it in preview mode. I always like to kind of preview things because there is a need to get everything to line up. But sometimes even when things are lined up, they look odd, and you just have to make sure that it's spaced out well. And these look great. And you can see how all perfectly aligned they are to those margins. Now let's just put the copy on the inside center. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to turn that into a text box. We're going to place our text, which is everything from Y. Leave this up here. These are the names that we'll put in later. Choose Y, choose floor, all the way to the word sync. Delete that. Put it in here. Now we'll go to our text frame options. Do you remember our inset? 0.25. And then now things are pretty set up. So I'm going to open up my paragraph style sheets and I'm going to style why choose floor as my large type. And under here, now we can look at these. I've still got hidden characters showing, so you can see there's an extra paragraph in between these. And even though it looks like they're all smashed together, we'll fix them. Now, there should be a paragraph after these words: modular, versatile, and easy. So put those in, and then we're going to call those out. I see an extra little space here. We don't want that. Take these out. Modular, medium text, text, medium text, text, medium text, text. And since the subheads here are not going all caps, I'm going to assume that that's not in that medium text style sheet. So let's open it up. Yeah, let's put all caps on that. Now all our subheads are caps. Now we're going to have to put some spacing in this to get it to bottom out to this margin. And let's just drag our guides to those margins so that they can always be showing. Now, let's try first putting some space between these. So maybe after the word modular, we want a little space. So let's put in 0.0625. So each time you do this, you want to redefine the style so that it affects the spacing overall and you can see where you're at. We're going to redefine that. And that brings it down a little bit, but we still need it down some more. So let's put some spacing above that also. So above it is this one here. So that means that it's going to be in between all these subheads. So I'm going to put that at 0.0625. And let's put even more spacing after and see if that helps. We'll redefine it. That looks pretty good. So now it's landing almost on there. We could probably finesse it just a little bit by putting a little bit more space above. Redefine it. Oh, we've gone too far. So instead of 0.125, I'm going to put 0.105 and see if that does it. Perfect. All right, so we've got all our copy in. Everything looks ordered and good. The only thing left are these little descriptors. So let's grab one of those, wide whale. And I'm going to put that over here. Make a little text box. And for that, you can use the body copy text. And let's go in. This is 0.25, so let's put 0.5 and set that right on there. And you're going to do that with the other ones also. And this one, I know this is at 14.65, so I just have to hit 14.65 minus 0.25. That'll give me my margin there for putting the text box. And I'm going to put this one on the far right. Okay, and let's hide those hidden characters because those are annoying and just kind of run through and check. I don't think we need this anymore. I think we know the front from the back. Let's get rid of that text box that we don't need anymore. And we're good to go. So let's save this. Remember always to put your name on files, not just for me, but when you send them to a printer. So you can call this floor. Now, before we export this, of course, we want to look and make sure we have no errors in our pre-flight. So let's open this up. Right now, it says I have no errors, but that's because it's that basic working profile. Let's go to a printing profile. I have 2 errors, bleed and trim hazards. Let's see what, oh, okay, it's my fold line. It's a little too close to the edge. We could move those a little bit out of the way so they're not quite so close. I'll move them just above that bleed. So that should be fine. It doesn't have a problem with them. No errors. So that means there is no disproportional scaling. Everything's high enough resolution. Nothing too close to the edge. So now let's export this. Now this is a little bit different in that we need to get the fold lines in there. So we're going to export this as a PDF. Let's go to marks and bleeds. We want the crop marks. We can use the document bleed settings even though there's not bleed. Doesn't matter. And we'll include the slug area. Now when we go to our output, we're going to make sure all these files are CMYK by converting it. And that's it. We're just going to export and then it will show us the file. Now, what do you notice about this file? There are no fold lines, even though we said include slug, and I'll show you why. Because the slug, the amount of slug that you have has to be established just like the bleed does. So let's go back to document setup. And do you see right here where it has, we put in the amount of bleed, but there's no slug. So let's just put in 0.25. That's a generous amount. And we have it on the link, so they'll all end up the same. 0.25 all around for the slug. So now let's try it again. Now, sometimes when you fix something and it makes a new PDF, the old PDF is still up. It will not change it. So you have to close it and open it again. And there they are. There are our fold marks where they'll score the brochure. Perfect. Trim marks are there, score marks are there. Everything looks clean and even, and that's it. You're ready to go. So for this file, I want you to actually send me the InDesign file because I have all these images and I want to see the file set up correctly with all these margins and all this spacing. Follow the directions and you should be fine.